Oseo Okanali'is, Tsalagiyi Nvdagi, Southern District. Hello friends. Here we are again for another video update, and hopefully I will be able to share some more pertinent information concerning the previous video update I did the last time concerning factionalism, quantum, and identity. I hope everyone had a good spring so far and has enjoyed health and blessings within their families and in their personal lives as well. First of all, I'd like to share some concerns that have been presented to me during the winter time, and I wanted to speak about these in this update concerning some realities, uncertainties involving our Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe and issues of involvement, logistics, and implementation for living as much as possible in a more traditional perspective manner as indigenous tribal people that has struggled to get to the point we have now achieved through recognition and been blessed with since the historic and contemporary struggles that brought Tsalagiyi Nvdagi into the 21st century in the first place. Private persons have shared with me and are concerned about the future commitments of the general membership and participation, seriousness of Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe and membership. One of these concerns is the lack of enthusiasm or activity, gatherings, coordinated efforts to improve membership involvement. It is true that we now have internet website available to afford anyone access to our tribal culture and history and request application for membership. Yet most of the time these efforts seem to be put on the district chiefs toward this goal. A second concern is that Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe may be seen by some tribal members as more than another social club or group to belong to, and have potential meetings or gatherings, and the rest of the time, months of the year, are not filled with any gathering, participation with other districts, or seeking outreach with the modern society and non-Indian world. A final concern is that Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe is not involved as much as it could be with the greater American Indian communities within the United States and of our local region. There have been previous plans for such outreach in the Treaty and Reconciliation Committee and in joining the National Congress of American Indians in 2020. But due to the COVID-19 events, it is understandable why there has been little enthusiasm or outreach within the greater society. Of course, there has been some outreach within some of the districts between district chiefs and non-tribal individuals and organizations when time allowed or available for such opportunities. It is hopeful that such energy can be productive and rewarding for the entire tribe or two specific tribal districts. Yet, it is also quite possible that there is little enthusiasm for any extra activity or outreach or involvement due to tremendous effort, finances, time, and commitment that such outreach would require from district leaderships and other tribal members. Everyone has their own personal and family lives and responsibilities to attend to, no doubt. And this is also taken seriously into consideration. However, if the Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe is just another club or group that some members only participate in as a last resort, or after more important social clubs and groups have been participated in, perhaps these concerns are and can be seen as legitimate concerns and vital to the reality and meaningful future of Tsalagiyi Nvdagi tribe and our future of accomplishing the original goals set out in 1993 by the founding Uku, Bushidahi D.L. Hicks, and the founding members, of whom so much time, expense, and devotion was made to reinstitute and revive the lost freedom and recognition of Chief Bowles and the original Chickamauga Tsalagiyi Nvdagi people who immigrated into Spanish Tejas some 200 years ago in the early 19th century. Since the Treaty of New Echota, Trail of Tears, the U.S. Civil War, and a host of other factors between the 19th and 20th century, and federal U.S. Indian policy through that time, it is particular within the Aniunmiya people that persistent factionalism has continued to a point of absolutist fundamentalism, unwavering in regard of acceptance or rejection of all human beings, citizens of the U.S. who legitimately have Tsalagiyi ancestors' heritage within their paternal and maternal bloodlines. The following Facebook dispute and posting concerning this subject of tribal identity and blood quantum recognition is a small snippet of what I just shared about this concern. A tribal member of the Tsalagiyi people in North Carolina made a statement on Facebook. They said, "There is only one Cherokee tribe that consists of 3 bands. The Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, United Kiowa Band of Oklahoma, and Eastern Band of Cherokee of North Carolina. All others who claim a different band than one of the 3 above are not considered Cherokee and are a direct threat to Cherokee tribal sovereignty. In fact, to be Cherokee, one must be registered with the tribe, one of those official 3, federally recognized as Cherokee, is a citizenship granted through documentation or paperwork. One can have native DNA but is not considered Cherokee until they are a registered tribal citizen." This was their view. And now I will read the response from one of our district chiefs concerning this fellow Tsalagiyi man's statement. First of all, he is 100% wrong, as there is no Cherokee Nation anymore. The Bureau of Indian Affairs found in favor of the United Kiowa Band when the Cherokee Nation Oklahoma was trying to stop them from building a casino. All Cherokee bands and people are successors in interest of the original Cherokee Nation. But the actual nation does not exist as a historical entity any longer. They can claim whatever they want to, but our people, the Texas Cherokee, existed long before the CNO, Eastern Band, or United Kitwa Band, the three federally recognized tribes. So this is more reality of factionalism and division among the Tsalagiyi Nvdagi people in our time. However, the former principal chief of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, Wilma Mankiller, who served as chief from 1985 to 1995, shares an opposite view of this man in North Carolina and of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma of present. I will read you her quote. An Indian is an Indian, regardless of the degree of Indian blood, or which little government card they do or do not possess. Wilma Mankiller. Also, a quote from Sam Houston, as I previously have discussed him in several video updates. His quotes: I preferred measuring deer tracks to tape, that I liked the wild liberty of the red men than the tyranny of my brothers. I am aware that in presenting myself as the advocate of the Indians and their rights, I shall stand very much alone. Sam Houston, first President of the Republic of Texas, 1836-1838. And finally, an anonymous Native American quote. My grandfather is the fire, my grandmother is the wind, the earth is my mother, the Great Spirit is my father. That is what I am. I'd also like to share a small portion of a famous speech by the Namipu Nez Perce chief Joseph, who traveled to Washington, D.C. in 1879 of that year to give a speech to officials in Washington, D.C. My friends, I have been asked to show you my heart. I am glad to have a chance to do so. I want the white people to understand my people. Some of you think an Indian is like a wild animal. This is a great mistake. I will tell you all about our people, and then you can judge whether an Indian is a man or not. I believe much trouble and blood would be saved if we opened our hearts more. I will tell you in my way how the Indian sees things. The white man has more words to tell you how they look to him, but it does not require many words to speak the truth. What I have to say will come from my heart, and I will speak with a straight tongue. Akumki ima mihu, the Great Spirit, is looking at me and will hear me. Our fathers gave us many laws, which they had learned from their fathers. These laws were good. They told us to treat all men as they treated us, that we should never be the first to break a bargain, that it was a disgrace to tell a lie, that we should speak only the truth, that it was a shame for one man to take from another his wife or his property without paying. We were taught to believe that the Great Spirit sees and hears everything, and that he never forgets, that hereafter he will give every man a spirit home according to his desert. If he has been a good man, he will have a good home. If he has been a bad man, he will have a bad home. This I believe, and all my people believe the same. I did not want to come to this council, but I came hoping that we could save blood. The white man has no right to come here and take our country. We have never accepted any presents from the government. Neither lawyer nor any other chief had authority to sell this land. It has always belonged to my people. It came unclouded to them from our fathers, and we will defend this land as long as a drop of Indian blood warms the hearts of our people, men. On account of the treaty made by the other bands of the Nez Perce, the white men claimed my lands. We were troubled greatly by white men crowding over the line. Some of these were good men, and we lived on peaceful terms with them, but they were not all good. When I think of our condition, my heart is heavy. I see men of my race treated as outlaws and driven from country to country, or shot down like animals. I know that my race must change. We cannot hold our own with the white man as we are. We only ask an even chance to live as other men live. We ask to be recognized as men. We ask that the same law shall work alike on all men. If the Indian breaks the law, punish him. If the white man breaks the law, punish him also. Let me be a free man, free to travel, free to stop, free to work, free to trade where I choose, free to choose my own teachers, free to follow the religion of my fathers, free to think and talk and act for myself, and I will obey every law or submit to the penalty. Whenever the white man treats the Indian as they treat each other, then we will have no more wars. We shall all be alike, with one sky above us and one country around us. Then the great spirit chief who rules above will smile upon this land and send rain to wash out the bloody spots made by brothers' hands from the face of the earth. For this time the Indian race are waiting and praying. I hope that no more groans of wounded men and women will ever go to the ear of the great spirit chief above, and that all people may be one people. Young Joseph, Imutaya Alata, has spoken. Also, another reference is the book Carlos Montezuma and the Changing World of American Indians by Peter Iverson. This book shares similar concerns as I just mentioned and as previously in the previous video update. I will read the liner notes on the reverse side. The late 19th century was a period of transition for many Native Americans as they left behind their traditional ways and entered mainstream white society. Carlos Montezuma and the Changing World of American Indians is a concise, scholarly biography of one such Indian. The book is more than the story of one man's life. Iverson deals with the dilemmas of Indians who are trying to adapt to mainstream white society. He also makes a significant contribution by shedding light on the early 20th century, a period that Indian historians have far too long ignored. During the first several decades of the 20th century, few Indians were as capable of eliciting a negative response from the Bureau of Indian Affairs officials as was Carlos Montezuma. Combative and articulate, Montezuma challenged the very existence of the Bureau with repeated demands that it be abolished. This biography by Peter Iverson is a timely publication because of increased interest in Montezuma. Iverson provides a full picture of Montezuma's life and particularly his significance for the people at the Fort McDowell Reservation, a useful contribution to the study of Indian leadership and 20th century Indian history. An excellent biography fills an important gap in our understanding of Indian history from land allotment to the Reform era of the 1920s. Another reading I'd like to share. Julian Jennings, Indian people still defined by blood quantum. In the United States, since its early history, Native Americans, African Americans, and European Americans were classified as belonging to different races. For nearly 3 centuries, the criteria for membership in these groups was similar, comprising a person's appearance, his fraction of known non-white ancestry, and his social circle. But the criteria for membership in these races diverged in the late 19th century. During post-Civil War Reconstruction, increasing numbers of Americans began to consider anyone with 1 drop of known black blood to be black regardless of appearance. America's 1 drop rule is unique in world history, as it only applies here in this country. According to Ross Nutt, Creek tribe descendant, Native American people are the only people who are identified as a people by a variable degree of blood and have cards, certificate of degree of Indian blood or Alaska Native blood, to identify the people as qualified to be Indian. Homer Plessy was an octoroon, a person having 1/8 black ancestry, who claimed his right to sit on white designated seats in Louisiana because he could pass for white. The Supreme Court's separate but equal decision in Plessy versus Ferguson denied Mr. Plessy this right, thus recognizing the 1 drop rule while legalizing Jim Crow segregation in the South. Oglala Lakota elder and spiritual teacher Black Elk, a famous Wichasawakan medicine man and holy man, said, "I am an Indian. If you have 1 drop of Indian blood in your veins, then you are an Indian." His statement encourages that the rule should not be fixed, but a choice for self-affirmation. By the early 20th century, this notion of invisible blackness was made statutory in many states and widely adopted nationwide. In contrast, Amerindians continued to be defined by a certain percentage of Indian blood, called blood quantum, due in large part to American slavery ethics. And even if we don't have dark red skin or black hair or live on a federal Indian reservation, we can still have pride and identity in our ancestors and our hidden heritage that was covered for so long, as mentioned in these articles. Another reading I'd like to share from a Southern District member, Maganoli Ilucha, shared with me her story concerning her family history and genealogy and trying to find her Native American Tsalagiyi identity. I will read an excerpt from her words. Some American, Texas, Southern families were so secretive about their native heritage was typical. I've heard so many variations on it in the research groups I'm in, as well as in my own family. They were raised up to deny it for the very reasons you discuss, and told to run, hide if strangers came up on the property, because they were still afraid of children being taken from their parents and put in those boarding schools. They couldn't pass for white, didn't look black, etc., and were told it was better to be anything but Indian in Mississippi back in those days. Because of the stigma of being Indian and being so poor, they just had it instilled in them to never mention it, to the point my generation grew up totally disconnected from our heritage. And I mean all the families like this seem to have done a solid job of instilling that, because it has taken genealogy, the internet, and DNA for current generations to ferret out the family histories. Some elderly grandparents, I guess, got old enough and felt safe to finally admit that she had Indian ancestry. It's so sad that so many people live their lives feeling the necessity to deny their heritage. That's why some people are so passionate about finding it again. I feel like I'm restoring family members to us and making sure they never get lost again, to honor them and to appreciate the hardships they lived through, the courage they needed just to survive, etc. And finally, I'd like to share a verse of inspiration and native identity in closing. A note to those who walk in both worlds, the red and white worlds. I see you, not raised in the culture, but trying hard to learn it. Not raised amongst your people, but you have a sense of responsibility towards them and work hard to serve them. Not accepted by your community, but making a place of safety for others like yourself. Not having a status card, but having dark features. Not having brown skin, but knowing your culture. Not having biological family in your life, but making relations. Not having a connection to your ancestral history, territory, but having the knowledge and freedom to pray as they did. Not permitted to practice the spirituality of your ancestors, but still maintaining the land they walked on. Not possessing the skills needed to survive in the bush, but you have education, a job, and your own house. Not able to obtain education or find employment, but somehow able to feed your family with your hunting, beating, sewing, dancing, or singing. Yes, I see you. I honor you. I thank you, and I love you. Please, don't stop being you. Well, friends, I hope you enjoy that interpretive and informational session and video update this time. Hopefully in the future I will be making more video updates concerning other subjects and possibly returning to this subject as well. Until next time, Wadawekwa. Thank you.